Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name is Suj.
Mine revolves around not getting beat by non-league teams. My name is James. Hello, everyone.
James, how we doing? My wife is from Tamworth. Many people won't know this. Why would they? But I don't think I've ever loved her as much as I did at 90 minutes yesterday. I think it did wonders for our relationship. And unfortunately, it all ended in tears for us. So I really wanted to sit and watch penalties with her.
Didn't.
Because, she's not really into football. She doesn't really care, but she'd been into that. I'll tell you, Tamworth, Tottenham penalties. But you won, James. At the end of the day, if you win the FA Cup, no one will remember.
We won 3-0 at Tamworth. What's the big deal?
If you win the FA Cup, no one will remember. So I get it. It's nice to Tottenham bash a little bit. And I saw Expressions, his stream that he does the watch along in the first half. He had like 5,000 people watching. When he got to 88, 89 minutes, he had 20,000 people watching, all because people love a bit of misery and love a bit of Tottenham bashing and whatever else. Let them jump on it. At the end of the day, if you win the FA Cup, no one cares. At least your team is still in it. Mine, James, is not.
Yeah,
Adios.
You can go on into your little part of place with Arsenal and Brentford, mate.
They're the only two Premier League clubs out, right?
Well, there's three of you, mate. West Ham, Arsenal,
Brentford. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The only other two Premier League clubs out. I looked at all the results from the weekend, and I felt disappointed. I felt disappointed watching just Man City smash 8-0 and Liverpool win 4-0. Ipswich smashing everybody, because it's the FA Cup, James. You want a giant killing. You want a little bit of a romantic story and stuff. And there was none of it. Like, we're going to get to the last 16. And would it surprise you if there's just 16 Premier League clubs left? I mean, it's not going to be 16 Premier League clubs.
It can't be. No. There's going to be, I'd tell you one key thing, just a bottom line, right? There were 15 Premier League teams at home in this round, right? That's quite unusual. In the next round, there's only 5.
Yeah.
So it increases the possibility of someone going somewhere and getting turned over and stuff, right? All the ones that were kind of questionable, other than like Tottenham, they're all at home, basically.
It didn't feel like the FA Cup weekend, because just the big boys won as per usual and as expected. Just for the listeners, we've had a lot of questions, James, you've had on your streams, particularly around the chippy chips, whether it's chunky, curly, skinny, French, whatever it is. We've had a lot of questions around chips. Today, we're going to be covering off the rest of the fixtures. As we know, obviously, there'll probably need to be an update in a few weeks and maybe a month on top of that. But we do have a much clearer
volume
now,
1.
Yeah, exactly that. So we are going to be going into that. First off, we'll cover off all of the kind of topics of the weekend and the FA Cup and some wider football stories that have been in the news as well that might be fantasy relevant, might not be fantasy relevant, but definitely quite a lot been going on since we've recorded. And then, we'll get into planning all around the chips.
Yeah, so we're just going to do a little bit of a summary of kind of relevant stuff from the weekend, what we watched, and then go on to like strategies of chips and plans and making you aware of the possibilities and the options available to you. But you want to start with the Friday night game, boss? I take it you watched it.
Well, it was my team. I did watch it. I mean, I think look, Graham Potter's first game, he'd only had 1 day to train the team, so whether or not you can actually take anything away from it, I think people were too hyped about West Ham from the game. Like, West Ham fans were too hyped about West Ham from the game. The general reaction I've seen from West Ham fans is it was great. We played really well in the first half, dominated the game on the whole. We played well for 60 minutes and then kind of faded away. The injuries didn't help with Fulkrug and Somerville, who played really well in the first half. Both hamstrings. This whole narrative about, well, they haven't been working hard, and now that they've had to work hard and do some running, all of a sudden hamstrings are popping. This is how I would summarize it. I had a tweet ready at half time, which I didn't hit send on because you never tweet at half time. But my tweet was going to read something along the lines of, I don't know what Aston Villa have been smoking, but can I get some of it? because I
They were
haven't
crap.
seen it. I haven't seen a team play so shit, like awful. And I'm sure their fans will admit it. Like they were awful. And then after 60 minutes, they started piecing it together. They couldn't string two passes together. Didn't have a single shot on target. Or didn't have a single shot in the first half. Get as hyped as you want or don't about Potter. We've got to put the context in. Aston Villa were awful, as bad as I've seen them ever play in a long time. And that's the real context around it. Were West Ham better? Yes. But yeah, they were really bad. And as soon as they kind of got into gear and started playing a little bit, we shit the bed. And that's that. Somerville now out injured, Fulkrug out now injured. Danny Ings playing striker now. We've got no other strikers. Yeah. The only highlight for me was Ollie Scholes played well at left back.
He was really good.
He's
really good.
He's been knocking on the door for a while now. He's definitely going to be breaking in. But yeah, it was. People are excited about Potter and people want to take away from the performance good things. Why wouldn't you, right? You've got a new manager. You're excited about your new manager. When you watch the game, you're going to be looking for the positives. I get that. And I don't want to like piss in anyone's cornflakes. But we've had two other players go down injured now. We ended up losing the game. We didn't win the game quite badly with mistakes towards the end. And yeah, Aston Villa were crap. So for large part of the game. So don't take away too much from it.
Yeah, I think key points was I thought you were really good first half. I thought the swinging momentum was mainly the losing of Somerville.
Actually, yeah, a lot would say that.
He was basically playing kind of a hybrid right wing back position in the first. He was dropping him really deep off the ball, but then obviously countering really far up. But in the second, then you had like this axis of like Sufel and Wan-Bissaka on the right hand side, which wasn't the same, right?
Yeah.
And I think Villa then realised they could pin you in. And they do obviously have quality at the top end. They raised the tempo, but yeah, they were so terrible in the first 45. I think takeaways, key points would be for West Ham, it's like a non-invest, although I do think some of it was worth keeping an eye on subject to the injury status. Do you think Flappy will play tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
I think most of us have kind of thought, well, Potter will come in, Areola might get favoured.
No, I think Fabianski, he's come in and played, I mean, it's FA Cup. Read into it what you will, but I think Fabianski will play.
Okay. On Villa, I think the one that's interesting for people might be around Watkins. So you have to remember they've obviously got Everton Wednesday, Arsenal away Saturday, and then they go to Monaco next week in the Champions League, which is obviously a really important game before they actually play yourselves again, Suj. The Villa guys on our Patreon are saying they most of them at the moment now think probably Duran starts on Wednesday night.
So he's back from suspension.
His
had
suspension
a
will
rest.
be over. The thinking being, yeah, save Watkins for Arsenal in terms of his link play, all that, etc., is obviously better than Duran. So the guys think there's a chance that Duran might start at Everton. So, and I know there's obviously a number of taking that gamble on Watkins. Doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but just to make people aware, yeah, there's certainly a risk that Ollie Watkins might not start on Wednesday night.
There's a growing feeling that Duran is edging into not be first choice, but the gap between the two of them is getting less and less.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, that's kind of inevitable, isn't it? When you look at Duran's goals per minutes, etc., the inevitable that he's going to begin to push him. Yeah, basically, it doesn't work for Villa for them to play together. Basically,
they said it in commentary. He hasn't scored an open play goal since when? Was it November? Early November? Ollie Watkins.
Is that right?
Yeah, he hasn't scored an open play goal for quite some time now, James. I'm going to just double check.
That feels super long, too long.
No, he hasn't scored an open play goal since November, they were saying, at least. I will check that whilst, you talk about Villa.
I've not got a lot else to add on them. It's kind of the usual. Seen it again. Those who've got the Villa defensive guys, your Conts, stuff like that. They always concede the odd goal. I mean, they've only kept 2 clean sheets in the Premier League this season, so wouldn't be looking to invest in them. Wouldn't be looking to invest in your side at the moment. I suppose no one's going to be investing in Tottenham this week either. So what's your Ollie Watkins stat?
So Brighton, when they drew 2-2, was a penalty, right? That was game week 19.
Yes, I think that's right.
Prior to that, it was Brentford in game week 14, which was a 3-1 win.
Yeah, that's early December.
Early December. Yeah. He hasn't scored an open play goal in quite some time.
Okay, interesting. Maybe it was one since November or something, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Did you enjoy Tamworth?
I didn't watch it, James. I was listening. I I didn't watch it because I didn't expect a giant killing. I wanted you to lose, obviously, but not so much. I don't have hate for Spurs, but it'd be funny to watch you lose.
Listen, a non-league team playing Premier League club, unless you
that.
support that Premier League club, you want the non-league team to win. Like, I get that.
And I didn't expect it at all. And then the closer it went on, the more I thought, oh, okay. I thought 0-0 half-time, fine. You'll just ramp up the tempo. I'm going to go and take the car for a car wash. So I was just listening to it on the radio. As soon as it got to extra time, I was thinking, right, I need to make sure I'm home in time for penalties. And then you scored pretty early into extra time. Well, you didn't score, to be honest with you. They did. So
good finish.
Yeah. So after that, I kind of just, lost interest. But I mean, look, it's difficult to play on that plastic AstroTurf kind of pitch.
Oh, it's awful. Listen, you can't use it as an excuse. But even, I think, watching the game, if anyone enjoyed it, they enjoyed it because of the kind of David versus Goliath element. They didn't enjoy it because, it was a great football match to watch. That's not to discredit Tamworth in any way. But you do think, on the Astro, at least it's flat. Nothing seemed to run flat. And I think it took our players a long time to adjust to the speed. Like, it looked like the pitch was absolutely soaking wet. Like, a lot of our players looked like they were struggling. So, like if you're running, you want to turn, it seemed to like take them ages to put the brakes on. Like, you almost slide in to stop and then come backwards and stuff. It was awful to watch. Bissouma was like the only player that we had who seemed to adjust to what was going on with the elements. And actually Jed Spence when he came on in extra time. Otherwise, oh my God, we were so pony. Let me tell you that at the end of the 90 minutes, I was sweating, Suj. I mean, literally sweating.
Because it's like anything can happen. You get to the point where anything can happen and you have no time to, like when it's 10 minutes to go, they score, you've got no time to kind of turn it around, which becomes a lot more difficult, yeah.
And I've got the wife in the room with me and she's going, hey, be all right, don't worry. Like, it's Tamworth, you're going to be fine. You'll score eventually. And yeah, sure, she looks like clever clogs at the I'm like, you're not watching this. Nah. This is right ropey. Because you couldn't say we were smashing down the door or anything. Like, Tamworth 100% deserved to get to extra time. Can I just say, on the crying of the no replay, right? And Tamworth would have got an extra million if the game had been replayed. Right. Can everybody remind themselves how Tamworth earned the right to play Tottenham in the first place? Was not having to play a League One team in a replay. They beat them on penalties. So you can cry about that, but there's every chance Tamworth they might have won a replay, but there's every chance they wouldn't have won a replay against Burton Albion in the second round, right? So sometimes it goes for you. Sometimes it goes against you. Doncaster beat Hull, right, in the FA Cup this weekend. Maybe Doncaster wouldn't have beat Hull in a replay. Now Doncaster get to play Crystal Palace. There's a small chance that might get selected for TV coverage, right? So I think with the narratives, you can always spin them either way. In terms of the Tottenham FPL stuff, just a note for those who are still bonkers and still have Pedro Porro. He's obviously played 120 yesterday. Just kind of looking ahead at the fixtures, obviously it's Arsenal Wednesday, Everton Sunday. The Hoffenheim game's quite important next Thursday, and he can't be rested in that, right? Because Jed Spence and Reguilon aren't selected as part of the European squad. So he definitely plays against Hoffenheim next Thursday. So I would suggest there's a strong chance Porro won't start one of the Everton or Leicester games in 21 or 23. It will start at Arsenal, obviously. In 22 or 23. He'll obviously start at Arsenal in game week 21. Solanke, I think, will create a little bit of interest after this next game week because Tottenham's fixtures, once you get the Arsenal game out of the way, look a lot better. And I guess there's some bonkers people out there who think because of what happened to Arsenal again yesterday that Tottenham have got a chance, but Tottenham aren't going to go, low block and let's try and make it difficult for Arsenal to score in the penalty area. Plus, we don't defend crosses well. And Arsenal just failing to convert them at the moment. Did you watch Arsenal United, Suj?
I didn't. I heard that the refereeing performance was awful. Before we get into Arsenal, Man United, James, just to correct factually, we need to be correct on this show. The goal that Ollie Watkins scored against Brentford was a penalty. His last open play goal was Crystal Palace 2-2 on the 23rd of November.
Oh, you're correct, yeah.
Aston Villa have played 11.
Flecken should have saved that penalty. I remember now. Yeah, he nearly saved it.
Aston Villa have played 11 games since then. Ollie Watkins hasn't played all of them, but yeah, no open play goals in
You know why
11
Flecken didn't save that penalty, don't you?
because I own him in FPL.
That's
Of
correct, yeah.
course. Yeah, I didn't watch Arsenal Man United, but I heard that the refereeing performance was shady at best. I did see Manchester United's single word tweet after the game being justice. And obviously Arsenal to go out on penalties. Both played full strength teams, you'd say, as first choices they could probably muster, give or take.
Yeah, a little bit of rotation. Obviously, Binder playing in goal for Manchester United.
Yeah.
But I think otherwise, and we knew Diallo was carrying a minor problem, but he looked absolutely fine and great actually when he came on yesterday. So I don't think there's any issue with him. I guess little ones with Arsenal like Declan Rice not starting, for example. Arsenal, it was kind of same old as like the Newcastle game. They actually did create a lot of chances in the game, but failure to convert them was a massive problem. It's also worth saying, unlike the Newcastle game, the most of the creation of these chances happened in the end of the first half after Dalot had been sent off, and he's an absolute idiot being on a yellow card and then diving in. Like, you're gonna go, aren't you? Giving the
Yep.
referee opportunity. I don't think he could have any complaints about that. And then actually, I think once it hit extra time, United did pretty well. There was a few heroic performances defensively. I thought Harry Maguire actually was great.
He is
the middle
getting
of the back three.
plaudits left, right, and centre at the moment for his
I thought
performances.
he was really good. Bruno Fernandes outstanding, played multiple different positions in the game. He basically ended up as United's deepest midfield player, kind of playing as a six in extra time. Yeah, outstanding. On the Dalot red card, the impact of that is obviously he's suspended for the Southampton game. So and I know there's a lot of us potentially looking to invest in Diallo this week. That includes me. I'm still going to go there, I think, unless there's something team news wise that absolutely spooks me today. There's obviously a strong possibility he now plays wing back against Southampton. But it is still against Southampton. And I think moving forward, he is going to play as the 10 quite a bit. He's too good offensively at the top end of the pitch to completely restrict him, I think, to playing at wing back. So I think he's definitely part of United's strongest 11 going forward. And if people want to go there, they should still go there. Just as a consequence of the Dalot suspension, yes, he could play wing back. But also, they could just play Malacia on the left and move Matswari to the right and then keep Diallo higher up the pitch. Fernandes is captainable this week. I guess on that, Suj, who do you intend to captain this week?
Isak.
Same.
He's had a rest.
Same for me, mate.
Newcastle have won again. They're just in great form. I looked at the most transferred in players this week on FPL. The top three are all Newcastle players, and you would win 0 prizes for guessing who. Gordon top of the tree, then Isak, and then Lewis Hall. Yeah, I can't remember a time where all three of the top most transferred players are for the same team. Says it all about Newcastle. I'm going to back him. I think he's just in too good form to ignore. Yeah, I'm going Isak.
Yeah,
but I can totally understand Bruno being on people's minds. They've just come off 2 good results against Liverpool and Arsenal. They didn't win either game. They drew both and obviously won on penalties against Arsenal. And it is still Man United are still finding their feet. But the thing with Bruno is that like a De Bruyne or whatever, he can get points in any which way. He can score goals. He can get assists. He's quite good like that. So and he's always in and around the bonus. So I don't mind if people.
As an update, for those who listened to last week's Clash of Correspondence, which featured Gary and Matt previewing United against Southampton, Gary said about Bruno Fernandes, it's not like you're going to captain him any week. And me and Matt were like, what about this one, mate? He said to the patrons over the weekend, he said, I might get him in and captain him, you know. It's gone full circle.
Oh, love it.
So, I mean, that Southampton team's clearly there to be attacked. On Arsenal, I think the one that will most impact people for fantasy at the moment is Gabriel Jesus. That's a knee injury, and Arteta seems to sound out after the game that's pretty serious. I think most people could see if you're holding your knee going off on the stretcher, it's probably not going to be back for Wednesday night.
Yep.
So Jesus falls into definite sell category. 2 of the clubs you might want to have a look at in terms of investing in to replace Jesus with feature on Clash of Correspondence. We'll have that out early for you tomorrow. Ipswich v Brighton with Paul Gort-Allen, Sam Murray, Delap, João Pedro. João Pedro's scans come back clear. I don't know if that's confirmed if he'll be available for this week. Sam might have some intel on that possibly. And Danny Welbeck was back on the bench for Brighton at the weekend, and that has a consequence that he's an option again. And also, we think Welbeck will improve the output for João Pedro as well. But yeah, Jesus owners have got to sell. The likes of Jimenez are going to be interesting as well. But I do think if you've got the money, Solanke might be one to look at for that little period 22 onwards is quite good for Tottenham, actually. I see there's a few people getting kind of squeaky bum about their double Arsenal defence and stuff. Don't think Arsenal's problem at the moment is defensively, it's offensively. Though there is obviously a doubt about Timber now. And I think what I would say on Timber is he probably doesn't play both of the next two. So if he started that, he's come off with a tight hamstring. He plays Wednesday against Tottenham, for example. I then don't think he starts against Villa Saturday. I think that's problematic.
Yeah, I've wanted Arsenal defence for so long and just never found an avenue to get to it, whether it be Raya or Timber. And now I don't want to. Like, I think the last 2 weeks I've finally gone cold on the idea, even though it was always in the back of my mind as the one move I want to really try and force is getting to double Arsenal defence. Yeah, I'm not going to be looking at that.
Okay, let's find out a couple of other little bits. Thoughts on David Moyes' return to Everton?
I didn't think he should have done it.
Why? Because you shouldn't go back twice, except he did it with you and won a trophy.
No, we came back once. Its circumstances are different in how he came back to West Ham. I was on a stag do back in when he was in his Everton days with one of my mates who is an Everton fan in Birmingham. And the hotel we were staying at was the same hotel that Everton seemed to be staying at before they were playing Aston Villa. And he got David Moyes' autograph at like 11 p.m. sitting in the hotel bar. I texted him straight away, better dust off the old autograph and put it back on the mantelpiece now that he's back in charge of your club. Here's the thing. He's defensive-minded, right? You would say, David Moyes. And any West Ham fan who's seen his style of football would say, yeah, it was turgid and defensive and boring. Sean Dyche is a better defensive manager than David Moyes. So you've swapped your manager out for what? Are you going to get a more expansive style of football? No, because he doesn't do that. We kind of think
Sean Dyche half resigned, right?
Possibly, maybe. I mean, if they were forced into that situation, so be it. But also, if you said to me, you've got your team needs to keep a clean sheet. Who do you want to set your team up to keep a clean sheet? Sean Dyche or David Moyes? I'll take Sean Dyche, thank you very much. So I don't know where he might be a little bit better on the offensive side of things, but it will come at a cost on the defensive side of things. The squad is still the same squad. So the reality is Everton are pretty safe anyway because of what else is in and around. I think they will be okay. But I don't think it's a step forward or an improvement or a game changer. I think, it will just be more of the same, copy paste, if I'm honest with you. I don't see what he brings to Everton that's really a difference. Lopetegui to Potter is a complete change in style and everything. You've gone in a completely different direction. This, I don't see it as that. I'm nervous, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I also think, and we've spoken about this, I think it's a sensible appointment because I think there was very much a danger for Everton that they'd go, let's change philosophy and your players aren't good enough. And then if you start conceding goals and don't start scoring them, you are in massive trouble. Moyes is not a million miles away. What I would counter is I would say Moyes is better offensively than Sean Dyche, right? So if the balance is right, they've got good fixtures coming up. And the surprising one for me is it's 2.5-year contract. That's longer than I expected.
But I think that was the same situation with Graham Potter. Like the club were trying to get him on a 6-month contract, and I have no doubt Everton were probably trying to get Moyes on a shorter contract. And both Potter and Moyes have walked away with 2.5-year contracts because they've held the bargaining power. I think that just goes to show a little bit what the managers have on their favour. Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit better offensively.
Are Everton in a worse position this week than they were in last week?
No, but they're also not in a better position. But the only caveat I would add to that is if Dyche was resigning, then they had no choice and they had to move somewhere. And I agree with you that if that's the situation, copy paste at least for the rest of the season, find the same again rather than go in a different direction. West Ham are in a very different situation in terms of the squad and quality of players there. So yeah, I get it. I just think it's going to be tricky. But I think the nostalgic factor of David Moyes, and most, if not all, Everton fans have positive memories of him, going into the new stadium will be quite nice. If they can get themselves even right 13th, 14th, playing a bit better.
Everton finished 17th this year. That's okay, I'm telling you.
I get that. But if they can get a little bit higher and have that momentum, then the positivity going into the new stadium under David Moyes, who's got a long positive history with the club, taking him into Europe and stuff, will be much better. So there's also that to factor in. I think it could work out quite well. It's not a game changer in my opinion.
I will be on a coach at 6:10 in the morning on Sunday, Such, and I would rather that Sean Dyche was in the Everton dugout than David Moyes.
Yeah, I've got recency bias, James. In 2024, West Ham conceded more goals than any other team in the Premier League, and half of that was under David Moyes. So,
Okay.
I've got biases.
Couple more lines just before we talk a bit of strategy. Kyle Walker reportedly told Pep Guardiola last Thursday that he wants to leave Manchester City. There's definitely some people will say that's overdue. There is a consequence impact on that of FPL, is that it's probably good news for Rico Lewis owners.
Yay! I'm so happy about that.
Longer term, listen, could they play like a back four of like Akanji, Diaz, Aki, Vardiol, right to left? Yes. Could they also potentially invest in a transfer market? Yes. But I would suggest for Rico Lewis owners, that's certainly okay for the next couple, and then reassess when City go into more difficult fixtures from game week 23 onwards.
Yeah, I would agree with you. He's loitered around my team at that. So I bought him at 4.5, I'm going to say. And he's loitered at that value. And the problem I've had is, like, where do I go from that value? Like to a Nottingham Forest defender or something like that. And as a result, he's ended up just staying. And now he's going to end up being reasonably useful to me, I think.
He will, of course, potentially cover you in a blank as well, Serge, as we'll talk about in a bit. Romeo Lavia returned for Chelsea at the weekend. Only played 45 minutes. That was planned, him and Reece James. But I think Lavia has become a really important player for Chelsea. I've missed him over this period of 4 games without a victory in the league. And I think he unlocks Enzo Fernandez, potentially. You've got the potential solution again with Caicedo going inverted from right back, and then you push Enzo into the left half space 10 role, which is also good for Cole Palmer. I also don't think that's good for Nicholas Jackson as well. So Lavia being back has a contributing factor that could be good for a lot of Chelsea assets, I think. They play Bournemouth tomorrow night, a Bournemouth that will now be without a recognised forward. Evan Nilsson, metatarsal injury. It's going to keep him out for a couple of months. Enes Unal's second ACL injury of his career, obviously going to miss the rest of this season. The consequence at the moment is we potentially have an OP Bournemouth player somewhere in this squad. The first caveat I'll give is surely they will invest before the window closes in a forward, even if it is just a player on loan. And their fixtures coming up are Chelsea away, Newcastle away, Forest at home and Liverpool at home. Doesn't particularly make me want to dive in, but it has made people, I think, have second thoughts about selling the likes of Semenyo because he could play OOP. The problem with, I think, Semenyo playing the role is that who's then going to provide for him? Because you want him being the good ball carrier that he is for Bournemouth and getting his shots off from distance. Dango Otara played as the 9 at the weekend, and Clayton will tell you XG lively he is. His underlying data is really good. Keep an eye on him in forthcoming weeks. And if Bournemouth don't invest in the transfer window, it might be that we get out these next 4 fixtures and then they walk into the likes of Southampton, Wolves, and Otara is the one I think to really keep an eye on. But I'm not investing in that with these fixtures coming up, and I'm not keeping hold of Semenyo. Evan Nilsson being out is worse for other Bournemouth players. You've got someone unnatural is now going to go and play the position. That's not better for them. It's worse for them as a team, clearly.
I don't know, I'm on the other side of the fence there where I've got Semenyo and I'm like, surely I can't sell him if he's now going to be the main man up top.
Well, I think it might be Utara, boss.
Yeah, and obviously we've played them quite recently, and Utara did look lively. The thing is here, like this week, I'd benched Semenyo anyway for this game week 21, so I might just roll it for a week and see what happens. I had no intention of playing him, leave him on the bench, see what Bournemouth actually do, and kick the decision forward by another week rather than try and force it to get to Ahmad now.
Finally, I didn't watch the football on Saturday, which included Liverpool, and I know there was a lot of discourse about Trent on socials once it was confirmed that he was in the team.
Captain Trent.
Captain Trent, yes, exactly. That's, I mean, to be honest, with the team lineup that had been selected, had he not been captain, that probably would have caused a real question in seriousness. So we probably shouldn't read too much into that either. Have you seen his goal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, you all know that I've kind of been of this opinion for weeks that Trent is not worth the value for money. However, a couple of points. One, as I'll explain in a second, he's probably sticking for me this week by default. Two, I think he'll play tomorrow night. I don't think it's a case of, oh, Trent played against Accrington Stanley. Who are they exactly? We should just shit ourselves. It's like Trent got rotated for the Tottenham game. Bradley wasn't going to play 2 games in quick succession. So Bradley's come on for the last half hour, keeps building him up. Trent's played an hour, keep him ticking over, having not played on Wednesday night. I'm pretty confident Trent will play. And the fact that he's scored that brilliant goal at the weekend has just tweaked the narrative a little bit. Yeah, I imagine, yes, he'll probably play. But I will add, I think there's every chance he'll get turned over tomorrow night at Nottingham Forest. That's definitely a possibility.
I'm playing Chris Wood over João Pedro as it stands at the moment, even though Pedro's got Ipswich away, unless I really hear that Pedro's fit.
Well, we don't. We probably Brighton Thursdays. We're probably not going to hear. Unless Sam might have something on COTC.
What makes you think What makes you think they're going to get turned over?
The way to Nottingham Forest, joint second, mate.
Yeah. So what do you
Forest
see?
are good defensively, good on transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Could Liverpool lose? I'm not saying I definitely think Liverpool will lose tomorrow. I'm saying they could get beat at Nottingham Forest tomorrow, right? That's definitely a possibility. Forest are flying, aren't they? They've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I'm talking complete batshit. They're not away to Southampton, Suj. They're away to a team that's joined second.
Don't get me wrong, I get that. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to see how the game would play out, which would be a carbon copy of maybe the game at Anfield with Forest just hitting them on the counter. Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White, they're all in form. Chris Wood obviously as well. So yeah, okay, I agree with you.
The main reason Trent is going to stick for me is because I've decided that getting rid of Jota is a bigger priority. And that's nothing to do with his performance at the weekend. He's played the whole game. That's really good. So from minutes perspective, he's played 90, kind of back up to speed. But the thing is, he's not. And that became clear to me at White Hart Lane last Wednesday that he's kind of really still off it at the moment. And I don't foresee it not being Diaz, Gakpo, Salah as the favoured front three at the moment until Jota does something that forces the change of that. I thought Diaz was really good when he came on against us. Gakpo's obviously playing really well. It's not to say Jota won't get the minutes, but right now I'm just holding. And what am I going to do? Just keep letting Anthony Gordon go by? No. So my options were to downgrade Trent or to downgrade Semenyo to a label to go, or it's obviously Semenyo to Gordon and downgrade Trent and then keep Jota. But I've decided the path I'm going to take is Jota to Gordon and Semenyo to Diallo. When I look forward in future weeks, that's great. Now I'm looking at a rotation. I can obviously bench Solanke at Arsenal this week, which I kind of want to do from the fantasy aspect because I've got the double Arsenal defence. And then going forward, I can look at a rotation between Diallo and Rodgers. And it sets me. And I think that's really important. And then I can make my choice of the third Liverpool closer, which I think for me most likely will be Jackson to Gakpo, actually in 23. Keep Jackson for these next 2 home games and then on to Gakpo if he's still looking good. And then move Gakpo onto something else with the blank in mind, which leads us on to strategy chat. Boss?
Okie dokie, here we go. Chips, doubles and blanks and all of that kind of stuff. Am I ready? I think I don't think it's as complicated as it has been in previous years, I would say. because because of the lack of blanks and doubles, there's less choice of when to use your chips. Or I mean, you choose to use them whenever you want to, but there's less windows. So the permutations and combinations, I feel, are a little bit fewer.
Okay, what we'll do first, I'll take you through kind of a calendar idea of what the outlook is for the rest of the season. But firstly, Everton Liverpool is obviously something we're pretty sure is going to happen very, very soon. And Everton and Liverpool winning at the weekend has not done any harm to the idea it will go into 24 or 25. Yes, it can still go into 24 because there are 2 weeks between game week 24 and 25. So yes, in that first midweek, Liverpool have their Carabao Cup semi-final second leg against Tottenham. The midweek afterwards is available as long as Liverpool finish in the top 8 in the Champions League, which is a formality, but I don't think quite worked out as a 100% certainty. But we are literally talking in 99.9 percentile here.
Yeah.
So that midweek, the second midweek of 24 and the midweek of 25 should be available for the arrangement Everton Liverpool. We heard February the 11th, which is the Tuesday of the second week of 24 mentioned. That's now not possible because Liverpool are going to have to play Plymouth presumably on the Sunday before in the FA Cup fourth round. Wednesday the 12th is still available, and obviously the following midweek is available as long as Liverpool finish in the top 8 in the Champions League. I suspect we will probably get confirmation of the date of Everton Liverpool not long after Liverpool played Lille in the Champions League next Tuesday.
Okay.
Because Liverpool could lose next Tuesday and the confirmation might still come through based on results of other games, right? So I think it's probably just waiting on that at this stage. And I really think it's a 50-50, by the way, whether it's 24 or 25. I always thought when the postponement originally happened that 25 made the most sense to me, but we do know that they were intending to put it on the 11th, February the 11th. So if it can go on February the 12th, I don't know why it wouldn't be that.
Okay.
So I think it's a 50-50.
Good. Before we get into the fixtures, is it worth just giving a shout out? So obviously you predict what you think will happen, where the blanks are going to be, where the doubles are going to be, and so on. For anybody that wants a visual idea of how to use that for their teams, you got obviously two options. Sign up to our Patreon because we have a fixture planning spreadsheet that James produces, or go over to fpl.team, which I believe has been updated with all of your latest predictions. Pete, who runs that site, a good friend and obviously a patron and part of our community, it allows you to plan your team for future game weeks and visualize transfers in and transfers out. And it has the fixtures as you have predicted, James, on there. So anybody that wants to kind of, it's hard if you're listening on audio, particularly, to keep a track of dates and fixtures and so on. That's all there to be had. Or head over to YouTube where we'll have graphics showing the fixtures as well. And while you're there, you should hit the subscribe button and like the video. Go on. So yeah, thought I'd just stick that out there, James, because it will help people. So we're thinking, what's your feeling? Game week 25 for...
But Everton Liverpool, I've still got it in 24 at the moment.
Does that affect your thoughts around whether the assistant manager chip on Slot is better or worse, whether it's 24 or 25, or not bothered?
I would say that triple captaincy for Mo is better 25 than 24. So, I mean, if Salah's got Wolves at home and Everton away, rather than Bournemouth away and Everton away, I think that would lock in Salah for me. And I'm highly likely to go Salah anyway, I think, from that perspective, personally. And we'll talk about more options on that. Just shout a few other people out as well. I'm not the only person making predictions. There's loads out there, but we'll shout out a few familiar names. Obviously, Ben Crellin, you'll all be very familiar with in terms of best spreadsheets in the business, etc. Yes, better than mine. Talon Nadeem is a brilliant mind as well in terms of understanding how TV picks work. That might be really helpful. Similar story with Ian Parrin as well, is kind of the god of understanding that. Lego Mane with his graphics as well. There's loads of good people to go and follow on socials. Those are a few recommended ones. There are others as well.
Good.
In terms of understanding the calendar going forward, first and foremost, this is quite important. So in terms of understanding where we've got gaps in the schedule, that gap in the schedule for Liverpool in 24 or 25 only works if they finish in the top 8, because otherwise they will have a playoff in the Champions League to reach the final 16. Manchester City, for example, are highly likely to play Champions League games in those two midweek slots that were available for Everton, Liverpool. We will have most likely, but not certainly, and I'll come back onto that, blanks in game week 29 for the Carabao Cup final, and also blanks in game week 34 for the FA Cup semi-final. There are two clear available midweeks for rearranged fixtures. Those are game week 33 and game week 36. Those two midweeks are currently left completely free for availability for rearranged fixtures. Therefore, they are the most likely weeks where games are going to get rearranged too, bar Everton, Liverpool. Why make sure that's played as soon as possible? Well, for fairness of the league, so Liverpool don't constantly, and Everton, have a game in hand over their opponents. But also, Liverpool are still in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. There's a problem further down the line, potentially, if you don't rearrange the Everton-Liverpool game. I'm sure that they will. It's like well in excess of 95% that Everton Liverpool goes into 24 or 25. I think we're just waiting on the Champions League confirmation. Game week 37 is also available for the majority of teams for potential rearranged game. There is the caveat in there that the Europa League final is that midweek, and therefore you do potentially have a Manchester United / Tottenham problem should those sides progress far in the cups. And obviously Tottenham are in the Carabao Cup semi-final, still in the FA Cup fourth round, still in Europa League. Yeah, as if Tottenham are going to get to three finals. But there is the possibility further down the line that if Tottenham did get to three finals, you've got a massive, massive headache. I have heard some suggestion of people saying that if Tottenham did get to the Carabao Cup final, could their fixture against Fulham, which is the game week 29 fixture, be brought forward to game week 25? Now, for that to happen, it needs a couple of things. One, Tottenham would have to finish in the top 8 of the Europa League to avoid their own playoff fixtures. And two, people would need to act very fast because there would be less than 2 weeks to organise that fixture. I think that's unlikely. I think the Premier League will take the chance that Tottenham won't get to 3 cup finals this season. Do you think, Suj, Tottenham will get to 3 cup finals this season?
I would love it if you got to 3 cup finals and lost them all. That would be Christmas in the middle of the year for me. I don't, because I think in the Europa League, you'll probably draw a team in the back of beyond that's got a plastic pitch again, like Tamworth.
Unlikely to get a plastic pitch in Europa, mate.
I think Liverpool will mean business when you get to Anfield in a couple of weeks because they know they've got to win. There's a long way to go in the FA Cup.
I would say, even if Tottenham do knock out Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, I would say Fulham Tottenham going into 25 is unlikely, but a possibility. I don't think we should look at it as an impossibility. It is extremely unlikely that any other fixture would be brought forward from game week 29 to 25. That is not necessary. Even in the case of Manchester United, because Manchester United can only have 3 games postponed, or 2 games postponed from here, the FA Cup semi-final and the FA Cup final. So in their case, fixtures would get brought forward. And that's important, where Manchester United and Tottenham can respectively create a chain reaction, which gives us the story. I want to speak about the stories of understanding where fixtures might go in future weeks. Work on this as a simple basis of what's most logical. Games postponed for the Carabao Cup final in game week 29 move to game week 33. Games postponed from the FA Cup semi-final in 34 move to game week 36. The games postponed for the FA Cup final in 37 stay in 37, but are played in the midweek afterwards. That would feel like the most logical way. However, in the case of Tottenham and Manchester United, it can throw things out of sync. For example, I have now projected Bournemouth versus Manchester United on the FA Cup semi-final weekend, game week 34, to be brought forward to game week 33. Now, United are now in the top 4 in the betting for the FA Cup, whether you think they're good, bad, shit, indifferent. That's what the betting tells us. So that's why that projection has been made. And also, Bournemouth are a good side as well, right? So in terms of moving a fixture, there's a possibility that fixture would go. If you move it back to 36, if Manchester United are still in Europa League, what do you then do with the postponed game from the FA Cup final? You can't bring it forward to 36 because they're playing Bournemouth, and you can't move it back to 37 because they're in the Europa League final. So in the case of United Tottenham, if they're still in Europe, fixtures need to come forward.
So the good thing with that, I guess, is that the Game Week 34 semi-final postponements or rearrangements, let's say, you'll know before Game Week 30. So from Game Week 30 to 33 is what you're saying they would be. That's more than enough time for fans to be informed that this game has been brought forward by a week or what have you. There's no kind of 7 days travel ships, right? So if you know by Game Week 30 what's happening in 34 and you need to bring it forward to 33, 33, you're not being unfair to fans, I would say.
No. I mean, I think fans...
and I should also add, they don't care about fans, but, you know...
Yeah, well, there is that. But the later you get in the season, the less opportunity you've got. You could look at it and go, right, well, we're playing in Europe that week. Okay, there's only a couple of weeks here. It's got to happen here. Exactly that. So that can create chain reactions. So let me give you a different example. So in Game Week 34, Liverpool are playing Tottenham. Now, the current projection would be for Aston Villa to beat Tottenham in the FA Cup and also Liverpool to beat Tottenham in the Carabao Cup, and therefore there isn't a Tottenham problem later in the season. But let's say that Tottenham have progressed in those cup competitions, or even just in the FA Cup, for example. Then you have to do the same thing with the Liverpool-Tottenham fixture in Game Week 34. Rather than move it to 36, if Tottenham are still in Europe and still in the FA Cup, you've got to bring it forward to 33. That would then create a chain reaction, for example, where if Liverpool have reached the Carabao Cup final, then Liverpool from 29 doesn't go to 33, it's got to go to 36. That would then mean that City and Villa would have to go from 34 to 33 as well, rather than the 36. And it spirals like that, subject to who goes through. So you can't just think 29 will go to 33 and 34 will go to 36, because United and Tottenham can cause things that means they have to take priority on the fixture schedule, because the Europa League final is before the end of the season. That's not a problem with Chelsea in the Conference League, and it's not a problem with teams in the Champions League either. So that can create a chain. Also, the Premier League could just go, we're going to move games from 34 to 33 and 29 to 36. They could just decide to do that. I think in terms of 37, something to bear in mind in 37 as well is the FA Cup final will be on the Saturday. All the Premier League games are scheduled to be on the Sunday.
Right.
Now, obviously, it's most likely we have 2 Premier League games that are in the final. Under that teams in the final, under that circumstance, the 2 games that are postponed probably get played on the Tuesday, or one on the Tuesday and one on the Thursday. They probably don't want it to clash with the Europa League final on the Wednesday. I don't suppose UEFA would be too happy about that, and extremely unlikely if Manchester United or Tottenham were in that final. So in terms of why fixtures into 36 rather than 37 as an example, well, there's just nothing blocking the calendar at all in 36, basically. Simple as that. What should we cover next? Oh, just a kind of note on when will we know certain things. So Blank Game Week 29, we will know after, obviously, or in the build up to Game Week 25. So that the Carabao Cup semi-final second legs are before the FA Cup fourth round, in between Game Week 24 and 25. There you will know your blanks for 29. However, it is not a guarantee that a fixture postponed from Game Week 29 is a blank. I will give you an example. Let's say Tottenham knock Liverpool out and get to the Carabao Cup final. They are due to play Fulham on the weekend of 29. The game obviously would not take place on that weekend. However, the weekend after the international break, so it's 29 is Carabao Cup final and league fixtures, international break, and then the first weekend back is FA Cup quarterfinals before the midweek of Game Week 30. If Tottenham and Fulham were both eliminated from the FA Cup fourth round and Tottenham got to the Carabao Cup final, there is every reason to suggest that Fulham-Tottenham would just be rearranged on the first weekend after the international break. That would still be Game Week 29. Right.
So the challenge for me at the moment, in terms of Game Week 29, the biggest question is whether or not you guys beat Liverpool or not, because the Newcastle Palace, I've got 3 players. From Arsenal Chelsea, I'll have 3 players, give or take. From Liverpool Villa, I've got 4 players. From Fulham Spurs, I've got none. So if it's any of either of the other games, I'll end up in a game week with 6 or 7 players missing free hit for me is highly likely. If you guys actually do beat Liverpool, I could end up in a situation where I've only got 3 or 4 players missing and I can actually work around and maneuver that. So for me at the moment with Game Week 29, you beating Liverpool, you being Spurs, beating Liverpool has a massive impact on which way it could potentially go. And as you mentioned, obviously, if the fixtures stay in the same game week, then it's a non-event. But at the moment, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, free hit is the one that I've got penciled in because I do think Liverpool will still come back. But
I say this every year. If you can rearrange a game for a weekend rather than a midweek, I don't know why you wouldn't. Villa Liverpool is a scheduled fixture for 29, right? Well, if Tottenham beat Villa and if Liverpool don't even have to lose to Plymouth, I don't think. Let's say Liverpool lost in the fifth round of the cup,
yeah,
then Villa Liverpool could stay in 29. So, under the circumstance, let's just say even that happened, Villa Liverpool stayed in 29, and you just had, I don't know, Newcastle against Crystal Palace postponed. Get a free hit. You're not, right? So
no.
I think people just need to be aware that that's a possibility. Obviously, any team that makes the FA Cup quarterfinal, that can't happen because they'll obviously be committed to an FA Cup fixture. And then clearly 29 fixture would move to 33 or 36. Just something to be aware of. That it's not a guarantee once a team is confirmed in the Carabao Cup final. It's not a guarantee that they will blank in game with 29. Should we talk triple captaincy options first?
Yes. I
Suj?
mean, yes. There's only one place to start with that because of his performances so far this season. The majority of people, when they're thinking about triple captain, are actually thinking, when should I triple captain Mo more than anything else? And it's understandable that he's top of the list. We will talk about some other players, but clearly, if you can stick it on Mo, you're going to want to stick it on Mo.
Yeah, I think clearly that's right in front of our face and it's going to be confirmed for 24, 25. One of the downsides to 24 with Mo is obviously it would be Bournemouth at the weekend, then Tottenham Thursday, Plymouth at the weekend, then Everton. So there's 2 games in between the double game week. Now, I'm sure under that circumstance, Salah plays Bournemouth, Tottenham, and then plays Everton and probably doesn't start at Plymouth in the FA Cup. That would be my guess. So in terms of him starting the Premier League games, no concern. Although, do we generally have concern about Salah starting Premier League games with
No.
how he's playing and how Slot's using him?
Yeah, and not even that. Like he's playing 90 in all of them as well, James, more often than not. So he's going to stay on the pitch as well.
I think 25 will fall better. And the reason I think 25 will fall better, one, the fixtures are better. I think having Wolves at home rather than Bournemouth away obviously appeals a little bit more. But also, it's likely Liverpool will play Wolves Sunday, Everton Wednesday, and then Manchester City away is on the Sunday. So you can say, oh, Wolves Everton is only 3 days between them. But under this circumstance, Liverpool probably have a free midweek beforehand. So it'd be
Right.
free midweek, Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday. He plays, doesn't he? So if you'd had any minutes concern, I don't think that exists at all. Under that circumstance, particularly the 25, I don't know how I wouldn't stick it on him personally.
Yep.
I think there will not be a better triple captaincy than that. And I know what people say. So, what are the potential options? Well, there could be a better one for Mo Salah. He goes to Leicester in game week 33, and we've identified that could be a double game week, right? Or you could have the Villa fixture goes in there, so it's Leicester away and Villa away. Or what if the Tottenham game, as suggested, is brought forward from 34 to 33? Now, Leicester away and Tottenham at home, I would suggest would be pretty attractive.
I agree. Yep. Because I think that Wolves at home and Everton away seems attractive. That Everton away, just because it's the last game at Goodison, like more and Moyes knows what it means to the Everton fans. I just think that's going to be a difficult day. So Leicester give up loads of chances, or there have been. Tottenham give up chances. He'll have more chances maybe over the Leicester Tottenham game than he would over Wolves Everton potentially. Wouldn't surprise me.
It would more likely be Leicester away and Villa away.
Yeah.
And you still need to rely on teams to get to certain stages for this to happen, right? If Liverpool do go out in the Carabao Cup and obviously go out the FA Cup, then unless say Tottenham got to the FA Cup semi-final as well, then the only Liverpool double you're getting is this one in 24 or 25.
Right.
That's worth factoring in. 36, by the way, Liverpool have Arsenal at home. So if they had a double in 36, possibilities are Arsenal plus Villa away, Tottenham at home, or they're scheduled to play Brighton away on FA Cup final weekend. I guess there's a small chance that it could be brought forward from that weekend to the midweek in 36. I think that would need probably Liverpool not to make the Carabao Cup final for that to be a possibility. I think with that in mind, yes, you could debate that the 33 possibility could be better. But I think if it comes first, that's the best option. And so often we say with the triple captaincy, when you've got your first good option for a player with a double game week, was in form, just get it done. Remember like Marcus Rashford a few years ago when he had Leeds and Palace at home? It's like, don't over debate it. He's hit a bit of form, go. I don't think there's too much reason to debate against Mo. But Slot is certainly a potential reason to look against. Just to clarify some other possibilities for you, Haaland could have game week 33, Everton away and Villa at home.
Not bad.
Not bad. Or even better, 36, Southampton away, which feels like the best fixture you can have in the league. I mean Southampton away rather than at home. And then Villa at home or Bournemouth at home. The caveat on that is there's every chance that City have nothing to play for.
I was going to say exactly that. Yeah,
I might have an FA Cup final at the weekend and might also be in the Champions League. That's a little bit of a concern from that. But yes, there is a possibility that Haaland could still have a good one further down the line. Remember, that pretty much needs City to get to at least an FA Cup semi-final for that to happen. Cole Palmer, Chelsea have Fulham away in game week 33. They could have Everton at home goes with that. It's not bad. Fulham away, Everton at home.
Fulham beat Chelsea this season so far, James.
Very true. Yeah, absolutely. Game week 36, Chelsea is scheduled to go to Newcastle. So less appealing. A double there.
I would. Go on. He's just not that player that I would want to triple captain, Cole Palmer. He's that player that will get you 20 points or 2 points. I would be shitting myself with triple captaining Cole Palmer. Yeah.
Let me put it to you this way. If let's just say the potential double coming up for Salah, let's say Palmer had that coming up, Fulham away and Everton at home.
If Salah had that.
No, if Palmer had that coming up now, Fulham away and Everton at home.
Oh, okay.
He'd be getting a triple captaincy from me, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you've also got, it's not just triple captaincy, it's what you're doing with your other chips. Because we're talking about some of these 33, 36 doubles that could be potential. I've talked about my free hit in 29. It's because 33 to 35, I've penciled in Assman, followed by 36 wildcarding for a bench boost in 37, or something along those lines. So then triple captaincy, what do you do if you've still got it? You've got to find it.
I'm fascinated when we get there to hear what this Assman 33, 35 choice is going to be, because that sounds dodgy to me. We'll come back to that.
Newcastle, mate.
Okay. We'll come back to that. Eddie Howe will definitely be an option. Talking of Eddie Howe, I guess Alexander Isak in the form he's in could be a potential triple captaincy at some point. 33, they go to Villa. That's not great. Palace at home and Ipswich at home could make up the other game of the double, though. And it's just said Newcastle scheduled to play Chelsea in 36. So you could have 2 home games there. Chelsea at home plus Palace or Ipswich at home. Could also be Arsenal away, decent. Small possibility as well. So I think Isak probably no. Saka, if he's back available, best case scenario now, yes, a double is still possible for Arsenal. Ipswich away and Chelsea at home in 33. That would need Chelsea to reach the FA Cup semi-final and for Chelsea's fixture, for Arsenal to reach the Carabao Cup final and the Chelsea fixture to obviously move to game week 33 from 29. So Ipswich away, Chelsea at home. Best case scenario really for Saka. I guess there's a small possibility of them having Ipswich away and Crystal Palace at home in that week as well. That would need Crystal Palace to reach the FA Cup semi-final for that to happen. Okay. Best case scenario for Bruno Fernandes, last one, I would say game week 33, Wolves at home and Bournemouth away, which is a currently projected double of mine. I think taking all that in, it's like Haaland could have a great option later in the season, but are City even going to have anything to play for? We don't know. So I don't know if I'd want to hold it for that. For me, yeah, it's highly likely it'll be Mo, whether it's 24 or 25 coming up.
His ownership in that week will be off the charts.
Unfortunately, it would just be a chilled move. when it, and essentially what you're going up against in terms of positivity will be the people who've obviously used it primarily, because I think it'll be a difficult one to overlook. But I see so many people talking about using it on slot in 24 to 26 rather than triple captaincy on Mo. I just don't know if those people have used the triple captaincy or not. So I guess if you've used the triple captaincy, of course, by virtue, it makes slot way more attractive. Firstly, just a quick one on bench boost. So as the projections are at the moment now, which has changed following Manchester United knocking Arsenal out the FA Cup yesterday, I've got 3 games to be rearranged in 33 and 3 games to be rearranged in 36 currently. I don't think we can even at this stage know which double game week would look bigger between 33 36. The logic would be if we move 29 to 33 and 34 to 36, 36 hopefully has 8 teams doubling. Okay. That's probably as good as it's going to look. But again, if you have a scenario where, say, Manchester United and Tottenham got to the FA Cup semi-finals, I think that could easily be the other way around. And 33 has 4 fixtures and 36 only has 2. I think that's a possibility. So we can't even at this moment know which week will have the most doubles in. 36 is more likely of the 2. Do you, by default, Suj, in your opinion, have to use the bench boost in the biggest double game week?
Not the biggest, the best.
But you could have, with the triple captaincy and the assistant manager chip, you can still have great impact by picking them and using them over only having 1 extra fixture in a double, right? Say like Everton, Liverpool. You don't need a certain amount of fixtures. For a bench boost, if you want 15 doublers, you need a certain number of fixtures, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And of course, sometimes you end up with fodder that you're saying, well, he's got a double. It might be just a crap player, but you're just sticking him in there because they've got a double. I think there's another interesting question that you need to ask and think about when you're talking about the assistant manager chip versus bench boost. With the assistant manager chip, when you use it is dependent on whether or not you're willing to make a manager transfer as well. So if you're willing to make a manager transfer during a three game week period, it's very different to if you just want to stick it on one manager and leave it. Like I did talk about 33 to 35. That's based on sticking it on Eddie Howe and just leaving it maybe because they've got a couple of good home fixtures in there. What I haven't explored, which I do need to think about, is am I willing to make a transfer in that 3 game period? Because that also has an impact. I think if you're willing to make a transfer on the assistant manager chip over a 3 game week period, it could have a bigger impact than the bench boost. And even if you don't, it potentially could. But I think if you're willing to really do that.
Oh, the assistant manager chip is now the most powerful.
Yeah. So with that in mind, what you want to do is maximize the use of that before you maximize the use of bench boost. So if you're saying the biggest double might give you a better option for the assistant manager chip, I'd potentially consider that. You're right.
But I think all I would say is with the assistant manager chip across and around these doubles of 33 and 36, I'm fairly certain there will be a good option in both.
Yeah.
That's my point. Whereas the bench boost might not be a good option in both.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. It makes sense.
By default, what I'm saying is you might have, and we'll give a couple of examples, we'll talk about more, but it might be Eddie Howe looks great from 31 to 33 and Pep looks great from 35 to 37. My point being is the bench boost might only look great in 36. We can't answer that right now.
Well, based on your current projections, the teams that might double
neither would look great.
Well, you've got Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, Villa, City. That's not really where you go to for your bench options. And then Everton is the other team that makes that up. Whereas 33, Bournemouth maybe, and Crystal Palace might.
So yeah, at the moment you could argue 33.
Yeah. So remember, you don't really want to be looking at the bigger. You wouldn't be looking at the bigger teams for your bench options necessarily.
No, and you don't need 15 doublers, but I do think you want a cluster of doublers if you're using it in a double game week. As it would stand, yes, the appeal of maybe Bournemouth and Palace in 33 would be enough at this moment to think, yes, it's maybe that one. But that absolutely requires right now Manchester United to stay in Europe and reach the FA Cup semi-final for 33 to look better than 36. So in summary on the bench boost, if you want to use it in the biggest double, that will be 33 or 36. We can't answer right now which one definitively. That's what I'd say. It's slightly more likely to still be 36. But your best thing to do is keep your option open. What I would say is, with the introduction of the assistant manager chip, and if you still have your triple captaincy as well, right? If you have something coming up where you genuinely, truly believe you're looking at your bench and you're like, I think my bench is scoring more than 16 this week, I'd use it.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be strict as I've been in previous years to thinking I must save the bench boost for later in the season. If I'd already used my triple captaincy chip or was planning to use the assistant manager chip on, say, Slot or Moyes coming up now, then I would hold that bench boost back for one of the doubles.
This is my last 4 game weeks on the bench, James. 11, 23, 12, 14.
So there's one there you'd have been happy with out of 4.
What, the 23? No, but even the 14. Give me the 14.
You'd be happy with that?
I wouldn't be disappointed, put it that way. I wouldn't be
No, I suppose
disappointed.
you're only really, truly disappointed if you hit single digits from a bench boost. You're pretty gutted, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, there's consistently bench points there for 4 weeks in a row at the moment. I think a lot of people have that because there's a lot of bench depth. I'm just going into this week with like Chris Wood, Rico Lewis, and Semenyo was my bench.
Bench boosters regularly served me pretty well, actually, in doubles. I know people don't always see it that way. I always feel like I've had pretty good returns out of it. I don't think I've scored less than a 16 in a double from the 4 weakest players, except the one occasion where we lost a game, where we did it and Leeds had a game postponed during the COVID season. Like, what can you do? But one of the downsides, of course, with the bench boost is you become obsessed with it. Oh, I need to make this transfer to plan for this. And it's like, actually, what we targeting here, like 16 points or so?
Yeah.
Don't overcommit to it. So all I'm saying is, if people are in a luxury position and have got things coming up where it's like, do you know what? Liverpool Everton's going into 25 and I can now play Mikolenko, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm going to bench an Arsenal defender away to Leicester. And Fabianski's got Brentford at home that week. If things like this fall into place, you're like, this bench looks pretty good, I'd be happy to play all these players this week. Yeah, if you still got the triple captaincy and the assistant manager chip as well, I don't mind it getting used. I really don't.
Okay.
I think with this assistant manager chip, the idea of it must be used in a double is no. But you've got to land nice. I'm not saying use it for the sake of it. Generally speaking, if it was me, I obviously used it in game week 1. If I still had it, I'd be holding it, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of what it could be. You need certain things to fall into place. Free hit. So it's the old debate, shield versus sword, and you will get a narrative influence this year on socials, because last year in game week 34, I think, was the double where the Palace assets went off mad. Like, using the free hit in that week was pretty successful for nearly everybody who used it in that week. Whereas for those who used it in the blank in game week 29, where remember there was only 4 fixtures and we won't have that scenario again, was obviously absolutely horrendous. The average score was about 18 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the worst FPL week of all time.
Really bad.
Basically.
Really bad.
Yeah. I think if you had like a return, wasn't it like Areola's save points or something, was like, if people had that, it was like a good week.
A winner.
It was so bad.
A winner. Yeah.
There wasn't many returns going about in that week at all. So you will get an influence last year to use it aggressively as kind of a sword move versus a shield move. The aggressiveness worked. That's not the case every single year. And what you have to factor in this year is we've possibly got 3 double game weeks as it stands. There's obviously other stuff, Monarchy dies or whatever that can create further double game weeks. But as it stands, we've got this Everton Liverpool as a standalone, and we've probably got 2 more double game weeks. But we've got 4 chips we want to use aggressively, right?
Yeah.
Can't all go into the doubles, right? And the only one that you can really use as part of a shield here is the free hit. To use the assistant manager across a blank game week, like, you could, there are a couple of options with that, but doesn't feel right. You can use your triple captaincy in a blank game week. No. You can use your bench boost in a blank game week. No. So if you want to maximize using all these chips, if you've got them all across the doubles, free hit's your odd one out.
Yeah. Free hit for me is quite set for 29 as it stands at the moment. I also look at some of the teams that have good fixtures, and I don't think I'll have any coverage in 29. Like Wolves, for example, they go to Southampton away. Like, I don't own Cunha, and I don't see myself getting Cunha back Excuse me, assuming he's fit and this injury isn't going to be longer term. Yeah, so I mean, Manchester United go to Leicester. I don't have any Manchester United coverage at the moment. Whether or not I would by then, I don't know. So, as much as it's a shield move in 29, obviously you are trying to maximise the amount of points you're going to get. So you try and use it as offensively as possible. The Tottenham Fulham game potentially is in that game week as well. So I don't have any Tottenham and I don't have any Fulham either. That game could go off potentially. I don't know about West Ham, Everton. Moyes against his former team, he'll be well up for sticking it up us, to be honest with you. So I'll see. But I think 29 for me is the shield move that I'm going to do, but try and make it as obviously aggressive as possible.
Well, I think as it sits at this moment, it's not great. So the projection at the moment would be for Liverpool and Newcastle to be the Carabao Cup final, right? So we'd lose Villa against Liverpool and Newcastle against Crystal Palace. You've got Arsenal and Chelsea playing each other. One very good reason to free hit in game week 29 would be to get Erling Haaland in and captain him, right? He's at home
they're at home to Brighton as well.
He's at home to Brighton. So the chances are you probably will want to go free City, right? What do you do with your Arsenal Chelsea players here? Just you go, oh, I'm more free hit. I'm going to like take out Palmer and stuff like that. Saka, it's unlikely. Saka could be back by this point. What are you doing with your Arsenal defence? Are you taking it out on a free hit?
I'd probably keep Gabriel because Arsenal are at home. And until
I feel like the rest of the fixtures are pretty tough to call. Like Bournemouth against Brentford, Fulham against Tottenham, Everton against West Ham, bit of a flip. You'd probably go 3 Manchester United away to Leicester, and you'd probably go bits of Forest away to Ipswich. Both away though. I think the manipulation of the 33 and 34 needs to be really careful. So I'll give you an example here. So based on the current projections, and trust me, these projections are going to change again before we get there, right? But on current projection, we'd have in game week 33, Liverpool with a double, Bournemouth with a double, Aston Villa with a double, and those three teams wouldn't play in game week 34, and it wouldn't be the only teams not playing in game week 34. But when I look at game week 34 currently, I could have treble Arsenal at home to Palace, treble Newcastle at home to Ipswich, Forest at home to Brentford, Brighton at home to West Ham, Fulham away to Southampton, Wolves at home to Leicester. Now, those fixtures seem to flow much better to me to say, well, I can have that treble Arsenal, treble Newcastle would be like an instant. That's on 6 of them. Now, if I'm looking at my team at the moment, Suj, I've got 5 of them. So maybe by virtue of that, it's like, well, 34 will cover me better. Maybe it will be that it will just land where it's like, yeah, shit, actually for me, 33 will be the play to go free hit and then a wildcard 35 to then set for the last one of 36.
What would you do in 29?
Well, it might be that I carry all right. It might be.
Yeah, I get that. I'm looking right now at, let's just say Liverpool, Newcastle are my 2 biggest problems in game week 29 as they're not playing. They've got Everton at home, and I think Liverpool have Brentford afterwards. They've both got decent fixtures in game week 30. So I'm going to want them for game week 30. Salah, I'm up nearly $1 million in value. Isak, I'm up over $500,000 in value. Gordon, I'm already up like 0.3 in value. Lewis Hall, I'm up $500,000 in value. And even Trent has gone up in value. Like I can't use transfers to get rid of them because if I want them back, I'm not going to be able to afford to get them back, which is again part of the reason why I think free hit is going to be the one for me. I can't be selling these players or benching these players. I'm highly likely to have too many players. Not even Morgan Rogers, if the Villa game is not there. I've got $500,000 in value in him. Like that's all my additional value over my 100 million in those players.
If you deemed that you really wanted to keep them, then you could just go with 10 players, right? As an example, I'll give you an example. I'm planning at the moment, and this genuinely might change, but I'm planning at the moment a situation that would maybe have me having on the bench Salah, Isak, and Hall in 29. We keep the Arsenal Chelsea players playing against each other, and we just start targeting stuff. Once we got the Liverpool double out of the way, we start targeting stuff of a few others are playing 29. The out is potentially the fixtures before and after was pretty good. I mean, take Liverpool, it's not just after. We've got Southampton at home in 28 and Everton at home in 30. Right, well, I want big slices of that, right? Conversely, if Arsenal do pull it around and reach the Carabao Cup final, Chelsea got Leicester at home 28 and Tottenham at home 30. Right? I don't really want to sell, like Cole Palmer wouldn't want to sell, right? If he plays, then obviously he's definitely staying. But I wouldn't want to sell him under that circumstance, right? So I feel like I've got kind of free tickets in like Salah, Palmer, Isak. One of them's going to end up playing at least and try and bench the other two. Now, when I look at, say, Hall and Rogers, who I've got value in, I deem like, right, who's going to be more useful to me in the weeks coming up afterwards if I have to carry through? Well, Newcastle's fixtures under that circumstance are way better than Aston Villa's. So Rogers would have to go under
Yeah,
that
I get that.
circumstance. So I'm absolutely under no decision for game week 29 as yet. For me, it will be really important what the outlook is for 33 and 34, right? Because if 34 lands where it's like, listen, we know most of the, other than Arsenal, most of the favourites have gone through, but there's banana skins in the next round, right? If we have suddenly like Liverpool, City, Chelsea go out the FA Cup and we're looking at like, oh shit, actually, it's going to be Wolves versus Leicester's going to get postponed in 34. Like, we ain't worried about it so much anymore, are we?
Mm.
So it might be that 34 doesn't look so bad. There's a number of ties, right, where non-Premier League clubs have drawn each other. If they get through it and then they play another one and one of them's in a quarter final, I mean, one of them gets to the semi final, we've only got three games getting postponed from 34, right? That also then pulls away from your pool of what's possible for a double game week. So to maximize your double game week possibility, you want the EFL clubs to not go far in the FA Cup, essentially. Yeah, I haven't decided, but I think the most likely for me on the free hit will be 29 or 34 to use it as a shield. It's purely to use the other ones aggressively, I think. But then for me, having already used the bench boost, if I then go triple captaincy on Mo, I'm then Assmen 33 or 36, but the other one I've got nothing. So
Yep.
it could be, like I said, 34 doesn't look bad. Maybe it's free hit aggressively in 33, for example, under that circumstance. Ideally, yes, you would want to use a free hit in a double game week, but all the other chips definitely want to be used in a double game week. That's how I feel. So therefore, by default, I think it will become a shield for a lot of people this
Mm.
year. The best advice I can give is plan using a tool like FPL team to try and go through 29 in the first instance. And then if you can't, don't. The other beauty this year is with the 5 free transfers, like you'd have had to build to, oh, I've got to take Liverpool players out when they're playing Southampton because I don't have a player playing in 29. Like, this is why I keep saying if you can roll, hit 29 with 5 free transfers, make
Different
5 free
position.
transfers there, right? The more free transfers you've got, the more likely you are to be able to use the free hit in a double game week, I think, rather than a blank game week.
Yeah. I just keep my back to value. Like, yeah, I can sell those players, but it's going to destroy my team value, and I don't know if I necessarily want to do it. What about wildcard? I mean, wildcard is pretty straightforward. You're kind of either fixing your team or setting your team up, right? Either you're coming out of whether you've bought additional Everton players and Liverpool players for 24, 25, whichever it works out to be, whether or not you're dead ending to 29, you make all of your 5 free transfers and then need to fix your team to get some players back in, or setting yourself up for bench boost or whatever you want to do in the doubles. I guess it's generally the thought around wildcard. It will be either side of another chip.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we kind of got 4 periods for using the second wild card. One is now. There are a number of wild cards active. I'd probably rather wait till I knew which week Liverpool were playing in the double. Would be quite important to me. But doing it sort of like now to game at 24 is one option. I think then there's probably a space where you don't want to use it, ideally. So then use it sort of 30 or 31, depending on what exactly you have coming out of blank game with 29. Is depending on what the fixtures are, there is a real case to say you might not want a wild card straight away. You may want to wait one more week and go 31 rather than come out of the mess. So 30 or 31 to come out of the dead end of 29 is an option. I think 32 to set for double game at 33 and beyond is another option. Or then 35 if you dead into 34 and then prepare for the last double game week of 36. Those are kind of your 4 periods for
Yep.
wildcard. I genuinely, Suj, I couldn't tell you which one it would be. for me at this moment. I generally don't know. I can only know what the options are. And the number one option I do know is it will be after game at 29.
Yep.
And that would probably be the big advice to people. You set yourself up to give yourself the best chance, especially for those, say, as well, that don't have the free hit. Right? If you don't have the free hit, managing the blanks is quite tough, right? So if you dead end towards 29 and then you wild card out of it, right, that's covered you one of the problems. The manipulation of 33, 34, if you wild card afterwards, you can assess the damage basically and pick your poison in terms of whether you want to attack one more aggressively than the other, or whether you want, I'm going to aim for 7 doublers in 33 and I still have 9, 10 players in 34. You can manage your scenario better by holding that wild card back if you don't have the free hit. So that would be a really important one. For those who don't have the free hit, and there will be people who've used it, then I would use it after the first blank of 29. Assmen.
The assistant manager chip, yes. Real up in the air at the moment, I think, this one for me. I need to decide, are we using it aggressively? Are you going to try and target a team that is in the bottom half of the table that might have the potential to beat, it's not necessarily bottom half, but you know what I mean, 5 places below? Am I willing to use a transfer over the 3 weeks on my manager to try and maximize the upside of it? Those are the two kind of thoughts at the moment. So I'm not sure what I'm doing at all with the Assmen chip.
Do you want to do the rules first for clarity?
Yeah, let's just recap on them. I think most people should know them by now, but let's just clarify them. Go on.
So the scoring. Go on, you do it. You do it.
I'll do the scoring, you do the rest of it. So obviously you pick a manager for 3 consecutive game weeks. Once you've activated it, it's active for the next 3 game weeks. You cannot use any of your other chips during that period, and that includes your wild card, right, James? So once it's active, know that you are locked in. You are picking a team, really, essentially. As much as they're saying that you're picking a manager, you are picking a team. If the manager was to get fired, you're still getting the points for whatever that team is. The manager that you choose has to come out your 3 players / people from a individual team. So if you've already got 3 Liverpool, Gakpo, Salah and Trent, you cannot buy Slot as well. So you might need to consider that when you're planning around who you want to pick. It's easy to say, yeah, Arteta or Slot or Pep, but if you've got 3 of their players, it's going to be a little bit difficult. However, you can make transfers during those 3 game weeks, and one of them can be your manager. It does come out of your free transfer allowance. If you've rolled and built up a few, great. If you've only got 1 and you need to make a player transfer as well, that could also cause you a bit of a problem. The pricing for the managers is like 1.5 down to 500,000, isn't it? Give or take, all within that bracket. Interestingly, they didn't release the prices of the managers in 0.5 increments, which they do at the start of the year. They've kind of spaced them out a little bit more.
These won't change, by the way.
They're
fixed. They're locked, those prices.
Transfers in and out won't affect it at all. And I think it'll be very weird because people use this chip at so many different times. You get points for winning a game, gives you 6 points. Drawing a game gets you 3 points. Every goal your team scores gets you a point. And if your team keeps a clean sheet, you get 2 points. Now, if your team beats a team that are 5 places or more higher, or it's just more than 5 places, and it's not 5 places or more.
It's got to be 5 different.
5 difference. If you win the game, you get 16 points rather than the 6 points. And if you draw the game, you get 8 points rather than 3 points. So there's a 10-point win bonus and a 5-point draw bonus if you go with a manager in kind of lower half of the league that beats the team in the top half. This is where I'm talking about deciding whether or not you want to go aggressive versus safe, and whether or not you want to make transfers within that period as well.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much covered it on rules. I did see a question that came in on Twitter. Someone asked if we could activate it in game week 37. You can. Please don't do that.
I was like, why would you want to?
Because this chip is way too powerful for that. Again, be careful with the narratives. As an influence of last season, if you'd had Oliver Glasner over the period where Crystal Palace went off in the double game week and also won at Anfield, the score that he could have got is off the chart. It is very unlikely that any manager at any period is going to match that total. Genuinely. Or let me put it a different way. For you to be able to find it is unlikely. However, if something shows up where there is a clear, we've had like a manager bounce, they're in great form, etc., like Crystal Palace were last year, if that sort of thing arrives suddenly, we'll all know about it. But to tell you right now what that will be is bloody tough. Here's what I know in terms of a summary of the assistant manager chip. I would rather use it near the end. One of the big reasons I'd rather use it near the end is because you can play it however you want to play it. And for those who want to gain rank or, 50 points behind someone, will swing in at Kieran McKenna and Ipswich's fixtures gives you a chance at the end to go crazy, right?
Yep.
Or maybe you just want to hold off and you want to go, no, actually, I just want to go Arne Slot and get my kind of 30 to 35 points or roughly what it will be. The top managers of the top teams are way more likely to give you a consistent return. To smash out the sort of return that Oliver Glasner gave last year, which I think was over 60 points, I believe, is obviously that's the only way to get the mad one, right? Is you pick someone who could win 2 or 3 games against the team higher up in the more than 5 places up in the division. But you're also with this sort of manager way more likely to burn out and get not a lot. That's a reality, right? The swing is going to be wild. Now, of course, if you pick a manager who's playing 3 games against teams 5 places or higher in the league, just one of them is going to take you to 16 points, right?
Yep.
Just one. So if you've got any other little bits, like another draw, get you towards 24, you add in the goals, the clean sheets, yes, you could be looking at a really good total. But you can get some really good totals, by the way, from using the top managers. Let's talk about some of the top managers first and foremost.
What's your expectation? 20, 25 points?
More.
You want to get more?
This is the most powerful now, yeah.
Yeah, 3 wins from a top manager, 6, 18. Maybe you score 5 goals during that time period and 1 clean sheet is another 7. That's 25 points, James. I think 25 is going to be okay. And anything north of 30 will be an outstanding result.
I'm going to reference a tweet which I liked yesterday, and I'll retweet it today so you can find it easy enough on my timeline. It's from FPL Bench Warmers, okay, and he or she has put together analysis of the returns from last season and who did best. Now the 4 teams that comfortably were the best in terms of their total, and he's analysed this all the way from 24 to 38. The 4 teams comfortably that did better than anybody else: City, Arsenal, Chelsea had a great run towards the end under Pochettino, so they had a few like little bonus ones in there, and Palace under Glasner. When you look at some of the top teams, right, and their double game weeks last year, I think this is important. So Arsenal in double game week 34 last year, 23 points. Manchester City in their double game week 37 last year, 22 points.
Just the double game week. That's not just one game either side.
Just the double game week, right? So that's the 2 best teams from last season, Arsenal and Manchester City. In the double game, it scored 23 and 22 responsibly. On either side, by the way, Arsenal lost to Villa and then had a 9-pointer on the other side, so 32 points. For Manchester City on the other side of their 22, they had an 11-pointer before and a 9-pointer afterwards, so 42 points.
Okay.
Right. If you're offering me that right now, 42 points, I'm delighted with that. Chelsea, by the way, had you might remember last year, double game at 35 and 37. So they got 20 and 17 in the 2 double game weeks and 13 in the week between. So scored 50 across the 3 game week period. The absolutely crazy Oliver Glasner one was 64 points. I think was the best you could have had from it. And it was 41 points in the double, 19 points the week before when they won at Liverpool.
Right.
So just the 19 points, just from win at Liverpool. But let's be real, how many times do teams actually win at Liverpool? Now, of course, it doesn't have to be that, right? Because this year, that could be Crystal Palace winning at home to Bournemouth. right? In terms of how the table stands at the moment. And there are things like that where people want to look at. My instinct, truthfully, will be to use it on one of the top managers. And I know which one I want to use it on if the projections work as anticipated at the moment. Kind of clear in my mind, actually. And I'll cover that as one of the options. Firstly, obviously, people are looking at using it now for slot. Bournemouth away and Everton away, plus Wolves and then Man City, or Bournemouth away plus Wolves and Everton, and then Man City away. And I think under that circumstance, what a lot of people will be looking to do is move Slot to another manager in 26.
Yeah.
So take the double, take Wolves at home, and then move on and attack something aggressively in game week 26, which has the potential for, to get the maximum. I don't know, Kieran McKenna at home to Tottenham would be like an example, for example. Other options for Slot, important to clarify. So I think 31 to 33. And if you're using it around the 33 double, it's important to remember you may want to activate in 31. So for those we'd mentioned earlier, might want to wildcard after the blank. If you wildcard in 31, you might not want to go 32 to 34. You can, but of course you may find you want to make a transfer in 34 for your manager because they may go from double to blank, possibly. So if you want to stick with one manager, I think 31 to 33 rather than 32 to 34 in most cases. Fulham away, West Ham at home, and then one of Leicester, Villa or Tottenham for Liverpool, 31, 33. Also at the end, 36 to 38. Potential double of Arsenal and Tottenham or Villa, plus Brighton away and Crystal Palace at home. I actually think if you're using it for slot, there is a case to say, yeah, the earlier ones. Yeah. I don't think those at the end are necessarily any better. For Mikel Arteta, Arsenal are obviously now unlikely to have a double game week. But I do think there's a little 32 to 34 period if obviously Crystal Palace don't make an FA Cup semi-final. With Brentford at home, Ipswich away, Crystal Palace at home, if Arsenal were still going for the title, you could see Arsenal going, 2-3-0 in all three of them. And it will total up quite nicely. I think ideally you do want the extra fixture. Similarly, Enzo Maresca, I think 30 to 32, Tottenham at home, Brentford away, Ipswich at home is a nice run. But if you wait that one more week and go 31 to 33, you could have Brentford away, Ipswich at home, and then Fulham plus one of Arsenal away or Everton at home. If that falls with Everton at home as part of a double, I think that's pretty good. Brentford really away, good. Ipswich at home, Fulham away, Everton at home.
Yeah, and the good thing with that block, I think, is that there's two things. I'm not likely to have 3 Chelsea, and I don't have to use a transfer within that period. Like, I'm happy to keep Maresca for all 4 of those games over the 3 game week. So that actually, of all of them, bar Slot early, which I'm not going to use, looks quite interesting, James. I think Maresca there.
Yeah, there's another really good alternative for that period that I'm going to speak about in a second. The one that I like the most right now is Pep.
Okay.
Game week 35 to 37. Wolves at home, Southampton away, plus Villa at home, and then Bournemouth at home. If you're offering me Pep with something maybe to play for at the end of the season, and who knows, 1-1-5 and all that, they might have nothing to play for. But 3 home games for City plus Southampton away.
Massive caveat.
And yes, they might be going all out in the Champions League. They might have an FA Cup final. You know what? I don't need to worry about Pep. He ain't getting fucking benched. Oh, is he going to play twice? I get 4 games out of Pep, don't I? Whatever team he's putting on the pitch.
There's just a massive caveat. If they've got something to play for, because if the league is done and they're in the other competitions, then this is, I wouldn't even go near it.
Well, even still having Wolves at home and Southampton away, he's not going to play second team in all of them, is he?
Well, I mean, their second team could do damage. I don't. Yeah,
they might need the points to stay up, Suj.
The deduction not incoming before the lawyers come after us, James. As a set of fixtures, it's as good as it gets. I think the only challenge is the motivation for me. Yeah.
What if they're fighting for 4th and they're out the Champions League, they're out the FA Cup? I mean, if they have the FA Cup, you want them in the FA Cup so you can have the double, in fairness, or you at least want them in the FA Cup semi-final.
If they're out the Champions League, well, yeah, then there's no issue around resting players because they've got no other games in midweek and stuff to worry about. So that he'll be going full strength in most of those games. So, yeah.
The thing is, there's a couple there, isn't there? Wolves at home, Southampton away, where they're capable of winning like 4-5-0, and you're
Yep.
almost making up the difference of other people's bonuses elsewhere.
Hmm.
That surely would give you a consistent total, wouldn't it? Three home games and Southampton away. I can't find that as good for anyone else if it lands like that, personally.
On paper, don't
And
doubt it.
there is no chance of me having treble City either, so I don't have to worry about that either.
Yeah, unlikely. Unlikely. I mean, it's even to own Haaland by then you're breaking your team structure, right? So yeah,
So he might even cover up for a bit of that.
quite possibly. Agreed.
That's the one I like the most. Now, of course, that Manchester City or Aston Villa have to get to an FA Cup semi-final for that eventuality to happen, and even that doesn't guarantee that it would happen. By the way, because the Villa fixture could potentially get brought forward. Remember the chain reaction I spoke about earlier. Another one I really like is Eddie Howe, 31 to 33, and this is why I think Eddie Howe's been given the 1.5 price as well as the others. Is I think this little period of Leicester away 31, Manchester United at home 32, and then Aston Villa away plus Crystal Palace or Ipswich at home in 33 is pretty good. Now, it's obviously there's no bonuses or anything like that in there, but yeah, two home games plus Leicester away, Villa away. Newcastle have had some good results against Villa over the last couple of years. It's decent. Alternatively, as per the schedule at the moment, you could skip the Leicester game in the 31, and it might be that it lands as United at home 32, a double of Villa and Palace at home, and then Ipswich at home
Ipswich.
34. And under that circumstance, we've obviously replaced the Leicester away game with an Ipswich home game. And no matter what you say, St James's Park is as tough as it gets, whatever you think about Ipswich Leicester. So then it's three home games for Newcastle plus the trips for Villa. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's the period that I was looking at Eddie Howe. Yeah, and also around that period, it's too early to say that there's not nothing to play for. So, interesting options there with Eddie Howe. What
My
about the
inst-
cheapies though?
my instinct would be that 31 or 33, if it works out as projected, Maresca or Howe, and then Pep on the end for the 36 period, maybe. In terms of cheapies, this is where you can find some bonuses. So David Moyes has gone in really cheap, boss. 0 0.5, as we'd expected. You could obviously use it over the forthcoming double. So you could have something like Leicester at home and Liverpool at home. Obviously, bonus applies for Leicester. Then Crystal Palace away. And then there's another chance that the bonus Manchester United at home. Subject to where Manchester United are
Bonus
in the
applies for
league, I
Liverpool.
should say. What's that?
Bonus applies for Liverpool, not
Yeah.
this.
It might apply for Manchester United if Manchester United have good results between now and then, right? And Everton
Okay.
don't. Okay. Wouldn't take much for United to jump up to 10th, 9th. That said, it wouldn't take that much for Everton to jump up to sort of like 13th, 14th. So United one would be questionable. In terms of looking to max out bonuses, though, you can definitely have this for David Moyes. Arsenal at home 31, Nottingham Forest away 32, Manchester City at home 33, which may also include Chelsea away as part of the double. Now, that looks rough, but if they're fighting the drop, and you want to maximize your possibilities of your bonus, you're not going to find many bigger potential ones than that. Also, interestingly, across the second double period, they have Ipswich at home 35, Southampton at home 37. You could have a double of Fulham and Chelsea in between. So it might be that the double offers two opportunities subject to where Fulham are at in terms of the bonus. And then you're looking at the two really good home fixtures. What I don't like about that is like, if I'm just attacking the fixtures, why am I going to attack Everton?
Yep.
I'm attacking Everton because I want to find all the bonus, right?
Hmm.
For that to be appealing, I'd need them to be fighting the drop, have to get points in Ipswich, Southampton, and I'd need to have the bonus from both games in that double. Fulham away, Chelsea away. That's the sort of one, isn't it? If Fulham have got nothing to play for and they're 7, 8 points places above Everton, that's the sort of one you really want to target for the bonus if it happens. So that's a possibility. I think best one for your boy Potter, Suj. And again, the bonuses here are kind of dependent on where teams are placing. Tottenham at home 35, potential double of Manchester United and Brighton away 36, and then Forest at home 37. Now, for majority of teams at the moment, obviously, if targeting Forest is going to give you the bonus. Bournemouth is another one I think you'll be drawn to look at because of their positions in the league. when you're looking for the bonus, despite how good they are, I think you are drawn to look at Nottingham Forest fixtures.
Okay.
I think so. I think you are. Where you've got something like that. So to give you an example, and I'll use a Tottenham one in a sec. But if Tottenham played Nottingham Forest at home tomorrow, Tottenham are odds on favourites, in my opinion. That's how the bookies will do it.
That's an interesting
And
period
you're
for
gonna get a big bonus from that if Tottenham win, right?
Yeah. The thing with that period, 35, 37 for Potter, that I like is that yourselves, Manchester United, might have clearly other priorities that are not the league. And so, yeah, we can really cash in then. Potter will have had time to bed in. What I don't like is it's so far away that I can't make that decision. But you've talked about saving it till then anyway. But if we get to that period and you guys have a cup final or semis, well, semis will be earlier, but you've got Europa League or that kind of thing, and you know that the league is done, then it could be one that potentially could be worth looking at. Nottingham Forest by the last day of the season might already have top four sewn up, So yeah, don't mind that. Don't mind that.
Yeah. Or in any case, that's probably that gap is probably still going to stay there, isn't it?
Yes.
The later you are as well, the less the league positions will change.
True.
That's how it should work. It's not necessarily to say it's a guarantee, but at the moment it's really cramped between sort of like 11th and 6th or so, where like anyone wins 2 wins in a row, they're going to be like 6th. They're going to jump quite a bit. So someone like Bournemouth, who's 7th at the moment, you couldn't long-term plan and think, oh, I'm going to target Bournemouth for the bonus if you're like playing as Tottenham, for example. Because with Bournemouth, maybe with no forward now, they easily might slide back down the table and then it's just a normal fixture. Leicester have a similar finish to Everton. Southampton at home 35, Ipswich at home 37. Potential double of Nottingham Forest away and Wolves away. Now, of course, that needs one of Wolves or Leicester to make the FA Cup semi-final. But you'd certainly have the bonus there of Forest away, wouldn't you? And then there's 3 other attractive fixtures. That might even be better than the David Moyes one. For Kieran McKenna, here's an interesting one to potentially target. And these are single game week fixtures. Game week 29 to 31. Forest at home, bonus. Bournemouth away, bonus. Wolves at home, no bonus at the moment. But I guess if Wolves climb the table by that point, it's a possibility, though I would say unlikely. What do you think of that sort of run? Like that's where you're targeting like Forest and Bournemouth together for the bonus.
No. Don't trust Ipswich to be able to get victories in those games. The other 2 teams is just too good. So, no.
Yeah. Also, at the end, their last 3 fixtures, Brentford Brentford at home, Leicester away, West Ham at home. So it's possible that you could have bonus there from the 2 home games, Brentford, West Ham. You might have Newcastle added as another fixture for a double as well.
Maybe. I don't see myself using it on Ipswich, if I'm honest with you.
I don't personally see me using it on one of them real cheapies unless it really landed where it's like, to be honest, something like that, Forest Bournemouth together. Like if that one with the Kieran McKenna was part of a double, that would appeal more, I think. The appeal with these guys is they're cheaper. If you've already used your second wild card and stuff, you ain't got to work so hard to put one of these guys in, right?
Yeah, of course. And the other thing which is helpful but shouldn't really make too much of a difference, you've obviously built up more team value the more the season goes on. So it's easier to find the million or $500,000 in game week 34, 35 than it is right now because you'll have, in theory, built up more team value.
I'll tell you a couple of others that I like in terms of some other possibles. Couple for Ange. So Ange is coming at 1.1, period of 26 to 28. Ipswich away, and then target the bonus of Manchester City at home and Bournemouth at home. There is also the possibility that if Fulham did well over forthcoming weeks, you could go 27 to 29 if Tottenham didn't make the Carabao Cup final and go City at home, Bournemouth at home, Fulham away, and they could all be bonus games. That's not bad.
No.
But the other one I really like for Ange is this one, potential period of 31 to 33. Southampton at home, Wolves away, Forest at home for a definite bonus, plus Fulham away or Liverpool away.
That's pretty decent.
Yeah. The thing with my team is as well is you know that we're capable.
So Fulham away and Liverpool away could be bonus games.
It could be. So you could have 2 good fixtures, Southampton at home, Wolves away, and then Forest. as good as Forest have been, you are looking at them for bonus opportunities here. More so, I think, than even like Bournemouth, because you know Forest are going to stay there. So in
Hmm.
terms of your longer term planning, it's so unlikely as it stands that Forest drop out the top six. So if you're picking a team from the bottom half, Tottenham have got to rise through this league not to be getting a bonus against Forest, all right? There's every
Yeah.
chance you don't. Tottenham, if Tottenham get up to seventh, eighth, then sure, it's not going to be a bonus anymore. But I think with what Tottenham are doing in the cup competitions, there's every chance Tottenham will stay in the bottom half. And if you're looking at for a bonus, to have the potential to say, if Tottenham win at home to Nottingham Forest, that is worth 16 points for you. And actually, it's definitively more than that because they've got to score at least once.
Yep.
It's minimum 17 points just by having Ange at home to Nottingham Forest. You've got to consider that because that's a rare one, like I said, where you're going to go, yeah, they're definitely going to be like, they'll be close to odds on favourites, subject to how it lands at the time. But they would be. I think if you had Amram at home to Forest, you'd be looking for the same. That's gone. And by the way, Forest won at Manchester United. There's nothing to say Nottingham Forest wouldn't win at Tottenham. There's every chance they would. But I'm saying
They won at Anfield as well.
to have that as an opportunity, and at home to Forest, 17 points minimum if Tottenham win, like you're going to look at that, aren't you?
Mm.
I think. Other ones are like Amram. So here's three in a row for Amram. It doesn't fall as part of a double, but a potential bonus here. Forest away, City at home, Newcastle away, 30 to 32. So again, it's got Forest in there.
The City at home, Newcastle away, too tough.
I
Too
get
tough to
it.
take a risk on.
Yeah. If you drop the Forest game, 31 to 33, you can add on to City and Newcastle, Wolves at home, and possibly double Bournemouth as suggested, which could be part of bonus, subject to where at the moment it would be, right?
Maybe.
Bournemouth.
Maybe.
Also at the end, possible bonus opportunities here, and a couple of teams might possibly have nothing to play for, and United might. So West Ham at home, plus the potential double with Bournemouth 36, and then Chelsea away, Villa at home. So Chelsea and Villa likely to offer potential bonus opportunities.
Yeah, potentially. I'd need to see what form the teams are in at the time.
Unai Emery's price of zero point 0.8 raised real eyebrows when it was given out. Like, why is Emery at 0.8 and Postecoglou's in at 1.1 when Villa are much higher on Tottenham in the league? The reason I think they made that decision is the only two Aston Villa games that can be postponed are against Liverpool and Manchester City, respectively. That's it. Those are the
Right.
only two games they can have postponed. So if you're looking to use Emery as part of a period that covers a double game week, you've got a tough fixture in there. Also, because Villa are a decent side, there's no guarantee to even get the bonuses out of these. Now, as it
Yep.
would stand, they'd get the bonus against Liverpool, but not against Manchester City. However, I do think there's one good one here for Emery, particularly, and even more so if Villa were to do badly between now and then. Game week 31 to 33, Nottingham Forest at home, again, that same target. Then Southampton away,
Yep.
then Newcastle at home, could be bonus, and it could have Liverpool at home tagged onto it.
Which also could be bonus.
You could have three Aston Villa home games with a potential bonus,
And the
plus
away game,
Southampton away,
Southampton away. Yeah, that's pretty decent for Emery. And he's a cheap price. I don't mind that.
if it lands. If people want Oliver Glasner again, here's a potential one, 31 to 33. Brighton at home, which would currently fall into the bonus. Manchester City away would fall into bonus. So too would Bournemouth at home. And you may have Arsenal away tagged onto that as well. For that to be tagged on, you would need Crystal Palace to make the FA Cup semi-final. And just one more to shout out, Vitor Pereira right at the end. Brighton at home, plus possibly Leicester at home. Palace away, and then Brentford at home. And I guess there's three of those could offer bonus, subject to how well the other teams are doing and how well Bournemouth Wolves have done. In conclusion, how can you, unless you're about to use it on Slot or Moyes, how can you possibly know now which one you're using it on?
Agreed. But you can kind of earmark blocks of
Yes.
fixtures, which is what I think my conclusion is as well. I still think I'm set on 29 free hit. Bench boost and Assmen will be between that double period from 30 to 37, 38, and I'll have my wildcard within that period as well. Yeah, I think that's what I'm kind of looking at as it stands at the moment. I like that 35 to 37 for Guardiola. If Guardiola is not looking interesting, Potter's also got some options over there. So I think it'd be nice and interesting. I mean, you've kindly written them out, and we do have that on our fixture planning spreadsheet for the patrons. Just saying, right, if I was going to play 31 to 33, who are my top two managers? If I was going to do 32 to 34, who are my top two managers? And then kind of put it out of sight and out of mind. Because again, which of those two blocks I choose depends on when I'm going to use my bench boost, James. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think for me, like I've already said, the Pep one at the end is the one that really stands out to me. A lot needs to fall in place for that. Like Eddie Howe and Maresca for like 31 to 33 as possibilities. My instinct is, yeah, I'll be using it on one of the 1.5ers, I think. The Ange one could fall quite nice. Tottenham pick up their form and there's bonuses there and stuff. That's interesting. That Tottenham Forest option alone, I think, could be quite interesting. And I think in terms of the lower ones, maybe Pereira at the end, possibly McKenna or Van Nistelrooy at the end, but they would just be swinging for like. I could only really see me going for one of them, I think, Suj, if genuinely I had a genuine chance of winning the game.
the whole thing. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, cool. Good. Cool. Shall we cover off some of the questions that we've had in on Twitter, James?
Yes.
We've had plenty of questions that are random, I would say, that are not related to do with chips. So we'll kind of not cover kind of them off per se, is more specifically around fantasy players. An interesting question coming in here from, where are we? Erland Swiland, probably pronounce it wrong. Should they have made some managers 0.0?
No.
$500,000 is cheap.
What they've done is fine.
$500,000 is cheap enough. I would say so as well. I think it would add a real interesting, like if there was a manager was free, I think I'm highly likely to shoot for a big upside on a free manager.
I'm really not worried about finding the money for one of the top guys. I just look at my team now and think it's something like, yeah, Trent down. And it's there. I'm not really that concerned about that at this stage. It becomes more difficult if suddenly you want to, Saka's back and firing and you want him in towards the end with Palmer and Salah. Becomes more difficult. If you're trying to squeeze Haaland in as well, it becomes more difficult. But I think also, if you wildcard after the 29 blank, if you want to use Assmen 31 or 33 or 36, presumably you plan accordingly for what you want to do.
Yep.
I think.
Ian Parrin wants to know how much influence Liverpool can exert on ITV to schedule the Plymouth match for Sunday.
Oh, I see what Ian's asking now. So basically, if it's not the Sunday, Everton Liverpool can't go into 24.
And they wouldn't want it in 24, they'd want it in 25?
It will be the Sunday.
Right.
It's almost, maybe if it's, put it this way, if the TV announcements come out that Plymouth Liverpool is on the Monday night, Everton Liverpool is almost certainly going to 25. Plymouth Liverpool can't be the Friday or Saturday because Liverpool playing Tottenham on the Thursday. So Plymouth Liverpool really should be the Sunday, right? Then they play Everton on the Wednesday. So if Plymouth Liverpool, if you see the TV fixtures and it's like Plymouth Liverpool is on the Monday night, right? Everton Liverpool is dead for 24. Because Everton, I don't think Liverpool play on the Sunday 25, but Everton don't. They play on the Saturday. In that game, I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, Crystal Palace away. It's on the Saturday. So that's why Ian's asking that question. But yeah, right. 90% Plymouth Liverpool be on the Sunday. Plymouth Liverpool, Villa Tottenham are highly likely to be two selected TV games on the Sunday. There might be a third.
Cool. Do you have any questions in on Blue Sky, James?
Oh, shit. There was one I wanted to cover. I didn't actually look. Neil Waterwell wants to know if someone can give him a free hit. Might be useful.
No. Has he used it already?
Here's two quick ones for you. This is from our friend FPL Chancellor. Paraphrasing the old Sky adage of need versus want. Is flexibility versus points the trade-off in the next few game weeks, i.e. rolling transfers, etc.? So flexibility versus points. Is there a trade-off?
So is Dan talking about not using transfers to roll them up so that he's got more options?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I can see what he's saying. Like, I'm really grateful that I've got bench depth at the moment because it means I have that option of just rolling up my transfers. I've got two. I'm not going to use one this week. And like I said, my bench of Pedro, Lewis, Semenyo is deep. And I can see myself doing that for another couple of game weeks. Then what am I doing it for? For more Everton players for the double game week? Like, I can't see myself buying more than one or two. So
Yeah, but you might be sitting there with just Salah right now, right?
I've got Salah and Trent. So I could add one Liverpool, maybe two Everton, so three transfers for that. But then I only get rid of them afterwards. Yeah, I think there is something to be said for that. Just it's a balance always. Like ignoring what's directly in front of you, like you, for example, right? Gordon is a want, not a need, I would say. With Semenyo that you've got there, I would say Gordon is a want, not a need. But also, he could score a hell of a lot of points in the next few and you'll regret it. So points is also important.
Yeah, I mean, Gordon for me is an example where you could look now. This is the sort of mistake I'd make in the past. And I go, he's probably going to blank in game week 29. And before that, he's got City, Liverpool, West Ham away, and Nottingham Forest at home. That's shit. And go, I'll just weather this storm in the next four. Meantime, in the next 4 weeks, he scores 47 points. And I'm like,
you've got Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton, away, Fulham at home.
He's going in. He's going in.
Yeah.
He's going in, and he can go afterwards. That's my take. My plan at the moment would kind of be between now and 29 that I only principally have, and I've got in theory, because I've got two now, I've got 10 free transfers between now and 29. I want to use two now. So there's 8 weeks left. I've got 8 free transfers. Use one more for another Liverpool and one more to then remove that other Liverpool.
Yeah,
probably like Gakpo and then to another forward. That's my only plan at the moment. That should then leave me 5 free transfers potentially for game week 29. Now, it's never going to be as smooth as that. And it might be that I get to 25 and I'm like, right, this is shit now for Gordon. I'm going to take him out and go for someone else. And it might be I go back to Semenyo because Bournemouth come back into a good run, ironically, Suj. But I want to leave myself the 29 option open at the moment and plan principally that I'm going to run through it. The only way to principally plan that at the moment is to begin to store up transfers. Doesn't mean don't use them now, but I'm aware it's like, right, now, Gordon, Diallo, are you happy with that? If that's what it is long term, James, the answer is yes.
Understood. Cool. We've been going on for the best part of a feature-length movie here, James. So we will leave it there. Of course, you know that we're going to be covering off more to do with chips and strategy as the weeks kind of pass by, and we know
revisit this again, I should imagine, after the FA Cup fourth round, because the Carabao Cup semi-finals are the midweeks before, so that's going to move the whole outlook again. Yeah,
a lot more indeed. Good. What do the listeners have to look forward to for the rest of the week? I know you mentioned already that Clash of the Correspondents is tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a busy week. Obviously, we've got FPL deadline tomorrow, so it's deadline stream on YouTube, 5 p.m. tomorrow as well. Clayton and James show Wednesday will include Clayton's thoughts on what's going on with Arsenal, bit of North London derby preview, plus all the normal stuff on there. Ask James will be on Thursday this week. That's scheduled for 12 p.m. UK time. That's because me and Suj will be doing our game review podcast of Game Week 21 on Friday. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Additional content this week includes Game Week previews tomorrow and on Friday, Q&A today. Tottenham on Wednesday. I'll talk more about Tamworth and pouring sweat and how I'm feeling about they've given me a ticket at the Emirates right next to them bastards again, haven't they? I'm not staying there, mate. And Thursday, me, Suj and Clayton are all combining to try and complete a puzzle that we don't know what it's about on our quiz this week, which has been supplied by one of our patrons, Sam Brennan.
Lovely jubbly. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/planetfpl. The additional pods that James mentioned, the fixture planning spreadsheet that you've seen snippets of in the video if you're watching.
Planner is available today, from basic plus tier,
which is only a couple of quids a month, give or take. So why not head over to Patreon and support the show? If not, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to grow the numbers there. Give us a like or a review, and you'll be notified as soon as any additional content goes live. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. As James said, reminder, FPL's back tomorrow, deadline. Chat for now.
Thanks, everyone. As always, play it your way. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please. Man child.